this March 7th meeting of the Paducah Planning and Zoning Commission to order and ask that you stand with us as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Mr. Summer, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Benberry.
Here.
Commissioner Bradford.
Here.
Commissioner Morrison. Commissioner Pollard.
Here.
Commissioner Schramke.
Here.
Commissioner Wade.
Here.
Chair Crecilius.
Here. Mr. Wade, you have our minutes motion, please.
I move that the reading of the minutes for the February 7, 2022 meeting be waived and the minutes of said meeting as prepared by staff be approved as written.
Second.
Second by Pollard. Are there any corrections, changes, comments? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wade.
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry.
Aye.
Commissioner Bradford.
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard.
Aye.
Commissioner Schramke.
Aye.
Chair Crecilius.
Aye. We have one item of business tonight, and that is a group of text amendments to the ordinances, planning and zoning ordinances. And what we're going to do is we're going to take all of those together, but then we're going to go through separately each one, and Josh is going to give us a little bit of a description about each one, why it's being changed, and what is being changed, very briefly. And then if you have comments, certainly we would want to hear those. This is a public hearing, so if anyone wants to make a comment, it's open for that. Ms. Schramke, would you read the motion, please?
I move that this commission adopt a resolution recommending to the Board of Commissioners that case TXT 2022-0001 pertaining to the text amendment of sections 126-3, definitions, section 126-70, planned unit development, 126-76, sign regulations, 126-79, qualified manufactured homes, 126-85, awnings and canopies, 126-97, cryptocurrency mining, 126-98, accessory dwelling unit, ADU, 126-104, medium density residential zone, R-3, and 126-110, light industrial zone, M1 of the Paducah zoning ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Second by Benberry. All right. What we're going to do, as I said, is go through piece by piece. Now, remember, this is only a vote to recommend to the City Commission. They have the final approval on this. So, anyway, Mr. Summer.
I will start with some new definitions that we have. Single family and two family are the first things that we've taken a look at. The Board of Adjustment has had some cases over the years where petitioners have wanted to live in sheds and garages and that sort of thing that doesn't meet the character of the neighborhood nor building code. So we are recommending in this text amendment to define those as only stick-built, qualified manufactured homes are modular in the R1, in zones where those things are allowed for qualified manufactured homes. And then for two-family, it's stick-built or modular. For towing, we have had a case come before it, that was proposed to the Planning and Zoning Department to allow towing in the B3 general business zone. However, towing operations have outside storage. And there comes with that sometimes some screening requirements where they don't look very attractive, and staff felt we didn't really want that on our major thoroughfares. So we are recommending towing and wrecker services to be allowed in the industrial zones, M1, M2, and M3.
Other questions or comments concerning this first item? Definitions. If not, would you move on to the second item,
Sure.
please?
The next is staff approval of site plans for planned unit developments that meet the underlying zone, and also simplifying and shortening the development review procedure. In looking at this text amendment, we looked at Bowling Green, Hopkinsville, and Owensboro, and they all have a one-step PUD approval procedure where our ordinance lays out a preliminary and final. By going to the one step, we would save time for a developer, time and money in doing that. Also, what's come before this body since January 1st of '09 has been 18 planned unit developments. 17 were approved or with minor corrections, and one, which was Strickland's, did have some minor changes to it. But a good example is, for example, the Dairy Queen on the south side. That came before you all, but it met every letter of the law for the B3 zone. So staff is proposing to be able to approve site plans in accordance with the underlying zone for those, which would save a developer time and money. And also, we're proposing to remove the size requirements that you would notice in Section 2. That way, a developer, for example, on the north side or south side, could do a smaller development with more density, which meets the city's goal in the comprehensive plan of housing choice, density, and population increase.
I think one important thing that I noticed in here too was that proposals that do not meet the standards
Yes.
would still come before the Planning and Zoning Commission.
They would. In fact, we have a rather large R3 planned unit development, so we've had several things in that one come before you all that will still continue to come before you all.
And most of the things that we're talking about, or all of the things we're talking about now, is from this point forward. I mean, there's not a grandfathered-in type situation. We're talking about new developments.
Yeah, it would be, well, after City Commission adopts the text amendment, it would be from that point forward.
Are there any other questions, comments? Go ahead with the next section, please.
The next one that is before you all is to replace the sign code in its entirety. And this is something that's been needed for several years now. Back in 2015, the United States Supreme Court decided in Reed versus Town of Gilbert that if you have to read a sign, it's a violation of the First Amendment. So the KLC, Kentucky League of Cities, put forth a model ordinance which would help alleviate some of the issues that was caused by that. And the text amendment before you all is modeled after the KLC ordinance. And what we've also done is, you will notice that we've grouped residential zones together, we've grouped industrial and commercial zones together, and we've grouped historical zones together. That way, instead of 8, 9, 10 different sections of signs, we've got 3 to make it much more easier for developers and staff to be able to approve those. And also, we've are introducing content neutral verbiage. That way, we don't favor commercial speech, which is a violation of the First Amendment.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
It just in a situation where someone that applies for a sign and it is approved or not approved, then after that, if it's not approved and they're not completely satisfied, what is the step they would go to then?
It would depend on where the denial came from. If it's from staff, they would appeal to the Board of Adjustment. If it's from the Board of Adjustment, it would go to Circuit Court.
does this give substantial changes in the procedures or
Not in the procedures.
just
They
the
would still-
regulations of what signs are allowed where?
Yeah, just place, time, manner.
Josh, the reason why I asked, if you look at the page 14, like number 3, encourage signs that are attractive. It's very, subjective. And then if you continue on, encourage signs that are in the scale of the building, things like that. It can be very debatable between two people. That's why I asked that question.
Well, and we've gotten into before signs that obstruct windows.
Mm-hmm.
We've been down that road before
Absolutely.
too, so.
Yeah.
And they're listed in the prohibited signs, although there is an application where you can have a sign as long as it doesn't do more than 25% of the window. The rest of the 75% would still be open.
Keep signs within a reasonable scale. What's
What's reasonable?
reasonable?
Yeah.
Reasonable to one could be very unreasonable to us or the city, or vice versa.
Is there anywhere that this proposed sign regulation deviates from the KLC text
In-
amendment or the template?
Yeah, in the grouping of how the city of Paducah has chosen to put those inside of the contextual boxes of industrial, residential, and
Historic.
historical. But that's really the only deviation,
Yeah.
but that's because it's our city of
Right.
what we need to do. But other than that, we did follow the KLC model ordinance fairly closely.
I guess a question I have too, and this keeps coming up. Does the fire prevention group, when you have temporary signs, are they the ones who go out if a sign has been erected for more than 30 days? They're the ones who
Yes.
have to go out and do that, correct? Okay. And can anybody say this sign has been up for longer than 30 days?
Sure.
Or, in other
And-
words, somebody really needs to call it to their attention. They're not going to.
Yes, and they field those calls in fire prevention so that we can send in, or not we, but fire prevention sends their inspectors out.
Sure.
Yeah, fire prevention does the administration of the section of the code and the enforcement.
Just want to make sure everybody understands that you all aren't out driving around looking for signs.
Do you think it'll have much of a practical difference on what signs are allowed or not allowed?
I think it will, because, and the reason I say that is because now petitioners and developers have to hunt through the code on what applies. And this, they'll be able to go to, hey, this is commercial across the board, make it a lot easier.
I like the grouping too, where you have everything all grouped together, temporary signs, prohibited signs, exempt signs. That makes it so much easier for someone to go to the regulations and find what they
Yeah.
need.
Easy to navigate.
I noticed something the other day that is a whole new kind of sign, and that is the vans that drive around that have the electronic
Yes.
signs on their side that drive around and,
Just not
Right.
noticing, it's been here for a year.
well, I've seen them, but I've just seen them recently again.
Yeah.
It's not the first time I've seen them, but it's something that we need to notice.
You're talking about the ones that
Mobile.
Yeah.
Mobile
Yeah.
electronic
I'm not talking
signs.
about a sign in the back of somebody's
Right,
pickup
right.
truck. I'm talking about an electronic sign on the side of a van. Or, I guess it's not really, it's more of a step van, isn't it? It's bigger than a van, so. And I'm sure that would fall under mobile
They're exempt
signs.
because they're-
Would have to, because it has wheels on it. This is another one of the things that I don't know who will oversee this, is electronic message signs shall be free of burned-out lights. It's just like historic, that over a period of time, whether it's a billboard or it's a sign in front of a church or whatever, there are going to be a section of lights that are going to burn out.
Yeah.
Do they send letters to them?
They
and say-
will, yes. That'll be fire prevention. That'll.
Okay.
Just had in the past, I know it's came up the manpower, policing all of that.
No, no.
It's very difficult.
Yeah. Okay, please explain to me what a perforated sign is.
That is the type of sign that you place over a door or a window that you can see through. It's intended to see into the store with the tiny holes in it. And normally those are formed by ratios, either 50-50, which is a 50% opaque surface, or 60-40. But the intent is for you to be able to see the image on the glass, or people inside the store can see out.
Remember that?
That was one.
That was one.
I wanted a clarification on that.
That was one.
I'm glad that you spelled out too about replacement advertising signs.
Yes.
That's another sticking point. Are there any other questions, comments? Move on to the next section, please.
Next, we have requirements for qualified manufactured homes in accordance with KRS 100.348 and deed requirements for those. There was a couple things that was in our ordinance that was differential from Kentucky state law. One of the things is that a qualified manufactured home could be two-story, and we didn't spell that out. And at a minimum, any qualified manufactured home has to be 900 square feet, or we were allowing smaller, but it is 900 by state law. We're allowing those in the R2, R3, and R4 districts for single-family residential purposes only, where nothing changes with mobile homes. Those are still allowed in the mobile home parks, which we do not regulate. Those are regulated by the health department. And we do regulate as far as size and spacing, stuff like that. But as far as the condition of the home, that's health department territory. So we have did a lot of changes for these as far as the exterior materials, that what it can be placed with, masonry or block for foundations. It does have to be a permanent foundation. The front door has to face the street or be two-story in height. And also, it has to be compatible in terms of assessed value with single-family housing stock within 1/8 of a mile. The old verbiage was any structure, which was commercial, it was multifamily, it was two-family, so this really dials it in to more of the type of land use that we're talking about as far as compatibility. We are requiring them to be, or not requiring, but they could be located on more than one lot. Because in the past, this body's seen a lot of waiver plats where we've abolished property lines for manufactured homes. However, in order to retain density in the city, to hopefully over time increase population, housing choice, that sort of thing, we would allow a manufactured home to abridge a property line, but what they would have to do is get a land use attorney and call it Tract 1, Tract 2 on a new deed to record at the courthouse. And the purpose of that is for the PVA to know that that is one lot to be assessed together, instead of Lot A, if something happens with the bank or repossession or something like that, that lot's not being taken away, but it's acted as going to be acted upon as a cohesive unit. And that was the sole purpose behind that, is to make sure that the land itself, in terms of PVA, is considered one unit.
Did I hear correct that It'll require two separate deeds to do that?
One deed,
One deed?
but two parcels,
That's
parcel A,
parcels.
parcel.
In the effect of like a tiny home that's mobile home or storage unit. How does that fall in?
Cottage homes are,
A cottage?
yeah,
It's already in the ordinance. It's
Yeah.
cottage home.
Yeah, okay.
but they're only allowed in commercial and industrial zones. The lot area is 2,500 square feet for those, but we specifically spelled out cottage homes are meant to be stick-built, have characteristics of a single site built.
Is there a square footage that has to be?
Yeah, it's 180 to 400.
And I think it's important to mention too that qualified manufactured homes are not allowed in R1.
Right. And in fact, the very last addition, number 8, not allowed in R1 low-density residential, the NSZ Neighborhood Services on Fountain Avenue, also the NCCZ Neighborhood Commercial Quarter,
Right.
which is another part of Fountain Avenue, no historic zones, no planned office park, hospital, medical, mixed use, downtown business town zone, or the A1 Civic Center zone that we're in.
That does severely limit, I mean, you know, it protects those single-family dwellings in an R1
Yeah.
zone. It's amazing to me, I have seen, I don't know if you all look at the for sale in Paducah site, you know, on Facebook, and they will have manufactured homes in there that are like $145,000.
Oh, yeah.
And they have like huge kitchens with stainless steel appliances and granite countertops and bathrooms with, you know, soaking tubs and that kind of thing. So the manufactured homes have certainly taken a step up. They're not mobile homes anymore. It's a totally different animal.
Correct.
Any more questions, comments? If you don't mind, move along to the next section.
The next one is very simple for awnings and canopies. It is just making a change from Department of Inspection to the Fire Prevention Division as the permitting entity. And that's simply to catch up with today's terminology that we call them.
Questions, comments? Next section, please.
This is cryptocurrency mining, which is completely new. So we did look at other cities in other states, such as Washington, Montana, and some different places to develop this as far as what's being done across the country. As you all know, cryptocurrency is really taken off in this area, especially in McCracken County, because of low power rates, and they can locate close to a substation. What we are proposing is for cryptocurrency mining to be able to take place in the B3 general business zone, but in an enclosed building not to exceed 105,000 square feet. Now, where that number came from was the Amerisource Bergen building, because they was already getting started in there. We don't want to create a situation where there's inactive space in our commercial zones. We want those to be pedestrian or auto-oriented, with businesses, job creation, and that sort of thing. But we feel that we have reached a limit for that for the B3, but we are allowing them in any industrial zone by right, M1, M2, M3, which not only includes enclosed buildings, but data farms, mining operations that is outdoor, data centers, and any equipment that has to go with those, like cooling for fans, those all have standards and things such as that, which would be on the property as well, but they are principally permitted. We are allowing them to be principally permitted in the planned office park. However, because of the nature of the park, we are requiring a vegetative screen of evergreens at the periphery, and they have to be 500 feet from any residential property. And so we feel that with the introduction of this new type of land use, we have plenty of property available for cryptocurrency mining.
I have a question. There is a cryptocurrency mining group that we heard. They, out in, what is the name of the office park? By Coca-Cola, in that section
Yeah.
up there.
Information
I'm wondering,
Information.
are they 500 feet? Because there is residential behind there, and I didn't know if they are 500 feet from a residential.
The only one that I'm aware of is in Commerce Park, right off Carroll Road.
Right, that's it,
Oh, that
Commerce
one.
Park.
Okay.
Mhm.
They were approved under the existing laws. that we have
Regulations,
now.
so,
There is a rear yard setback that they had to meet, which was 25 feet minimum. But that is still zoned M1, so they would still be allowed to go there even under this text.
okay.
Would that be the same? I think I've heard there's one at 11th and Madison, Harrison, something like that?
The Amerisource building.
No, 11th.
Yeah, it's, I've heard that, but I don't.
I haven't heard
I drive
that.
through there all the time.
We had,
I know they've put a
Was it-
transformer
Yeah, it's,
next to it.
well,
Maybe it is, it's somewhere in that, I didn't know if it was under a grandfathered in, or the other one.
we did have an inquiry about the old plumbing
yeah.
business.
Yes.
That's where it is, yes.
that was there, but it's zoned R3, so we've told them no. So,
Sounds reasonable.
I have a question. Why maximize the building square footage? I'm looking at
Yes, that's a good
paragraph
question.
paragraph 2A, general business zone. I don't, that's not a criticism or anything like that. It's just curiosity.
sure. It's to make sure that we maintain commercial opportunities for restaurants, banks, offices, retail, stuff like that in our commercial zones, instead of inactive space gradually taking up commercial zones. We wanted to make sure we limited inactive space is what it meant.
If they should be highly successful and want to increase the footprint of their building, what avenues would they have to pursue?
It would be a text amendment before this body, and of course, they would sit down, talk with us, and we would make a recommendation to you all if we needed to increase it.
Do they even have the availability, really, to increase the footprint at that particular place?
They're block to block right there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think they have a whole lot of opportunity there, but that doesn't mean that someone down the road
I'm just curious of
would.
Right, small business,
of what is the avenue in case
Sure, of course.
this or another building is maxed out at 105 and they need to go to 100.
Right. And that would be a very
Yeah.
case-by-case specific idea that would come before you all, because we would want to see what's going on around it, if there's going to be residential, commercial, how that would impact the local
Right,
area.
exactly. I'm certainly glad that you put in that adequate capacity shall be available in the applicable supply lines and associated substations to ensure capacity is available for other needs of the area served, such as
Yeah.
homes and businesses, because
All right.
cryptocurrency mining does use a
Brownouts.
lot of electricity.
Takes a lot.
Any other comments, questions?
On the lines of that, since we are putting in there that it shall not, or it shouldn't cause electrical interference, what would a citizen's recourse be if it let's say the cryptocurrency mining operation moves in, neighbors are starting to notice some blips in their electrical current, what do they do?
It
Their
would still-
internet service or something, yeah.
Oh, it would still be a violation of the zoning
Yeah.
ordinance, which could be a fine of $500 a day until it's rectified.
Gotcha.
And that would be enforced through fire prevention, which they would get a letter, hey, you guys are not in compliance, we need to come to a resolution on this, and then give them a period of time to meet that resolution, and if not, they would start incurring fees.
There are probably measures that can mitigate that kind of problem,
Yeah,
but they're not cheap, but they could,
Would
they
that
would have to
be
do
an
it.
easy thing to prove
Prove? No,
a resident?
I don't think so.
You know, if a resident said, my internet,
Right.
whatever,
Is fine.
changed because they moved
Yeah.
500 feet away,
my thought on that, Mr. Remke, is that it would be a joint investigation with the city and Paducah Power, Jackson Purchase, whoever it may be, to make sure that that electrical current disruption is coming from the cryptocurrency mining.
Well, I think part of that would be hard, though, to do would be electric and magnetic fields. That would be the part that would be hard. Electric current, that's a little bit easier to
Like with the internet.
prove,
Right.
but
I mean,
But on the flip side of where these cryptocurrency mining operations located is they do tend to upgrade lines. For example, I know that Big Rivers was doing a massive upgrade to their substation just for the cryptocurrency mine. So these companies typically do take into account their power needs because they do need to be next to a substation generally. So hopefully we'll never have a problem with that, since they do require such large amounts of power that is already built into account where they should locate.
any other questions, comments? These are all good. All right, let's move on to the next item, please.
Accessory dwelling units, this is another land use that has been on the rise coast to coast, and it's a lot of different terminology for these: granny flats, mother-in-law suites, the whole gambit of what these things actually are. The planning term that's used coast to coast is accessory dwelling unit, which it's simply a smaller dwelling unit on the same lot as a single-family dwelling. Not two-family, not multifamily, or anything like that. It does, and in other cities as well, has to be a single-family dwelling. And the reasons that they're becoming popular is because the baby boomers are aging in place. So a lot of the older generation needs to be close to family, or conversely, older children need to move back home, be close to mom and dad sometimes, till they can get out on their own. So in the context of those types of land uses, we are submitting this to you all to be no larger than 50% of the rear yard, not to exceed the ground floor area of the principal building. The property owner has to reside either in the primary house or the accessory dwelling unit. The lots do not have to meet the minimum lot area or width standards, but they do have to meet the setbacks. The maximum height cannot exceed that of the principal dwelling unit, and any exterior staircases has to be located to the side or behind the building. Plus, they have to include one additional parking space for that accessory dwelling unit. We are proposing for them to be utilized as a short-term rental or special event short-term rental, but that's subject to the requirements of the other parts of the zoning ordinance. For example, if they're in an R1 zone, that's only a special event short-term rental. If they're in an R2, R3 zone, that's conditional use, but principally permitted in R4 and above.
So it would not include, let's say, for instance, someone who had a basement that they renovated, that they wanted to rent out to somebody as a means of income. Would that wouldn't be included? That would be a two-family dwelling, would it not be?
It would be, yes, and that's how we would look at that for density-wise.
So it would be considered an accessory dwelling unit or no?
Oh.
I didn't think so.
no.
It would be another rental unit.
Yeah, that, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Just out of curiosity, to your knowledge, how many subdivisions are there that have requirements that would preclude this, even from that?
I'm not sure.
But-
I do not know.
I know
the
that
answer.
even though we may allow it,
That would take
subdivisions may
precedent
not,
for sure.
would
They
not
would.
allow it.
Yeah, that wouldn't allow
Curious
it.
how
Yeah.
many there are like that,
Most of them.
Yeah.
at least the newer ones, yeah.
Mhm, the newer ones do for sure. Any other questions, comments? Minor text amendments, they are very minor, aren't they? It's
Very
basically
minor.
just wording. When I went through that, I couldn't really find anything that was different at all. And then the final item allowing towing and wrecker services.
In the M1 as a principal use.
Any questions, comments? These are the items that we'll be voting on. Are there any other questions as far as any of the items that we've listed? If not, we'll close the public hearing and call the roll, please.
Commissioner Shramky,
Aye.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradford,
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard,
Aye.
Chair Crecilius.
Aye. If there is no other business to come before us tonight, we stand adjourned at 6:06. Our next meeting is April the 4th, and I look forward to seeing you all then, hopefully.
Thank you all.
very much.